China anniversary, Hong Kong protester shot by live round. Police detain demonstrators in Hong Kong's Sha Tin district. Hong Kong got trapped in a cycle of violence. Floats and balloons mark 70 years of the People's Republic of China. A protester wearing a Guy Fawkes mask was seen holding a Chinese national flag that had been colored black. An activist involved in anti-government protests in Hong Kong has been shot in the chest by police during a clash. The incident came as thousands of people demonstrated in defiance of a protest ban for the 70th anniversary of communist rule in China. Though people have been shot by rubber bullets in previous protests, this is the first injury from a live round. News from BBC. All photos may not represent the story. Watch to learn English the way you've learned your mother tongue, as this video is especially made. In the Chinese capital Beijing, 15,000 soldiers paraded with advanced military hardware to mark the anniversary. Nearly 4 months of protests in Hong Kong have challenged Chinese President Xi Jinping's vision of national unity. Earlier, the Chinese flag was raised at a special ceremony in the territory. Security was tight and the 12,000 invited guests watched the event on a live video feed from inside a conference center. On what is being described by protesters as a day of grief, people took to the streets in central Hong Kong and at least 6 other districts, blocking roads in some areas. At least 51 people were injured during the clashes, as police fired tear gas and protesters threw petrol bombs. 2 people were in a critical condition and 2 others were seriously injured, the hospital authority said. According to local media, at least 96 people were arrested. What happened to the man who was shot? The man, who is aged 18, has been undergoing surgery and his condition is not known. Police say he was hit near his left shoulder. A video shows the injured man lying on the ground, saying, "Send me to hospital. My chest is hurting, I need to go to hospital." Video of the shooting shows a police officer opening fire with a revolver at a man swinging what appears to be a metal pole, as a group of protesters confront riot police. Police say their officers were attacked and the policeman who opened fire did so as he felt his life was under serious threat. He fired a round at the assailant to save his own life and his colleagues' lives, Senior Supt Yolanda Yu Hoi Quan was quoted as saying by the South China Morning Post. "The police force really did not want to see anyone being injured, so we feel very sad about this," she added. UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab called for restraint and de-escalation in the former British territory, saying, "Whilst there is no excuse for violence, the use of live ammunition is disproportionate and only risks inflaming the situation." Police tried to disperse the protesters, some of whom were armed with petrol bombs, projectiles or poles, with tear gas, rubber bullets and water cannon, the latter spraying blue dye to make it easier to identify them later. In response to heavy-handed policing, some protesters have become increasingly confrontational, BBC Newsnight international editor Gabriel Gatehouse reports from Hong Kong. "If I get shot in the head and I die, it's okay," one radical told him. This might raise the awareness of society. At least 15 metro stations and numerous shopping centers in the city were closed, and some 6,000 officers were deployed in the territory. What is the background to this? Hong Kong has been a part of China since 1997 but has its own system of law and government, known as One Country Two Systems. In recent years, there has been increasing opposition to what has been seen as the growing influence of Beijing on Hong Kong's society and politics. Hong Kong always sees anti-Beijing protests on the 1st of October, and this year they were expected to be larger than ever, because of the months of unrest triggered by proposed changes to the extradition law. The changes would have made it possible for China to extradite people to the mainland from Hong Kong, something opponents felt put Hong Kongers at risk of persecution in unfair trials. For nearly 4 months, protesters have taken to the streets, at times reported to be in the millions. The proposed changes to the extradition law have officially been scrapped, but that has failed to quell the unrest, which has now evolved into an existential battle over Hong Kong's future. Quick guide to HK protests. 1. The Hong Kong protesters are mostly young people worried about their future. Their demands have now expanded to include genuine universal suffrage and an inquiry into police behavior. 2. The protests started peacefully, but as the weeks have worn on, the violence has escalated. The alleged involvement of gangs and undercover police officers has led to fear, mistrust and suspicion. 3. Hong Kong is part of China, but enjoys special freedoms. Those are set to expire in 2047, and many in Hong Kong do not want it to become another Chinese city. Speaking from a podium in Beijing's Tiananmen Square, President Xi said no force could stop China's onward march. Dressed in a Mao suit, he watched the parade, which featured some military hardware on show for the first time. The highly choreographed event presented an image of national unity and gave no hint at the difficulties faced by China's communist leaders during the last 7 decades, or their current problems. Please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.